All right, everyone, welcome back to another round of Training Thursdays here in the Facebook group. I've been doing these trainings since July when the holidays kind of hit around, and it's just been a really great space to kind of unpack a topic. And this particular month, I've been unpacking topics as it relates to food freedom, as it relates to mindset, as it relates to laying a foundation towards finding your freedom of health and food and body health. And honestly, a lot of it starts in your mind. So you might have noticed either with these replays or with my podcast episodes, they've been really addressing beliefs and thoughts. I think this is huge when it comes to our journey. Yes, I'm all about action and I'm all about habits, but I think when we lay a good foundation in our mind, it will make those habits a lot easier and a lot more sustainable. So if you are on live or watching the replay, or you're listening in on the podcast, I'm going to put this on the podcast. I'm really excited to be guiding you through this conversation around fear. And just so you know, with the content I'm about to share with you or anything I've been sharing around this, I'm not necessarily trying to quote unquote call you out, right? But I am at the same time. What I'm saying by that is that what most of us women don't recognize is that often we are placing ourselves in a position of self-sabotage. And what that means is that we say we want this, whatever this is over here. What if that is peace with food, break free from emotional eating, finally feeling good about my body, loving myself, not feeling like I need to do a diet, feeling like the scale doesn't control me, all those different things. But yet we are not we either are saying things to ourselves or doing actions that are not aligned with that goal, with what we want. And I think a lot of times self-sabotage comes from fear. So what I want to do today is kind of just talk about fear a little bit, talk about what it is, how it may show up and then how it may show up in your health journey or your version of wanting to find peace with food, your body, and yourself and your health, right? So we're going to talk about 5 different fears or questions that kind of come up that I've seen women, as I've hopped on a lot of calls with women over the last 5.5 years. I've had a lot of clients, and I've just seen fears that women have around taking whatever that next step is. And I'm not just talking about taking that next step in regards to, I'm not just talking about taking that next step in regards to, actually, let me pause this for a second. I pause this because I realize my laundry is going right now and I have a fan going right now. So the quality of this audio may not be as great when you're listening on the podcast. And I'm very sorry about that. But I'm just going to let you know I am all about showing up consistently, even when it's imperfect. And I actually think that's a very huge thing that we all need to do in our health too. So if you're listening and you can't see me right now and you can't see how my house looks, but life is not perfect over here, right? But it is good because I'm all about pursuing a quality of life and health that is imperfect, but that matters. Okay. So anyways, and so, I just think we are, again, I'm not just talking about a program. I'm talking about just whatever next step that is. Even I find women, not just before they work with me, but even while they work with me, face fears, face a lot of the fears that we're even going to talk about today. And I just want to hold space and say that it is normal to feel fear. This week's podcast on what it truly takes to be successful in your health goals talked about courage and fear. And that's why I wanted to have this extended conversation around fear, where really women who are courageous and women who accomplish anything in their life, it's not that they felt like, oh, this is just going to work out perfectly. No, they felt fear, but they chose to act anyways. They chose to work through their fear, through mindset work, through all these other things, but through action as well. And so I think mindset and action, mindset and habits go hand in hand when you're trying to reach any sort of goal or freedom or victory in your life. Okay, so let's just normalize that. Normalize that we all have fears. Normalize we all have concerns or worries or anxieties around changing things in our health and our life, right? But we cannot let those anxieties or fears lead us to self-sabotage, lead us to actually sabotage the very areas we want to work towards. All right, so I just wanted to cover that. So what is fear? I mean, you all are like, you might have all these different definitions, right? But fear really is just like us worrying about something that has not yet happened. I've heard the acronym of fear is false evidence appearing real, right? So it is something that we are moving towards, or sorry, something that we want, or something that we're looking at, or something that we're thinking about that has not yet happened, but we feel kind of anxious feelings about, we're worried, we're concerned about, right? And, often I would hear a lot of women say that, I'm just a natural worrier, or I'm just someone who's concerned about things. And I think many of us feel, and maybe this is actually one of the things I wanted to talk about, but it's just like we feel like fear or worry is normal. And yes, I agree. And remember how I said it is kind of normal to feel anxious, to feel fearful, but that does not mean that, how do I word this? I'm going to have to come back. It doesn't mean that it has to debilitate us and it has to hold us back, right? And I'll talk about this particular thing in later on. Anyways, I am going to get going. I'm not thinking kind of straight right now because there's so much happening in this big room, and garbage is being taken out, the washer is behind us. Hopefully my daughter is trying to actually sleep, so apologies, but this is life. Okay, so let's just get into the fear. Sorry, we talked about what is fear. It's just fear of something happening, fear of worrying about something in the future, and we're going to try to fix it in the present in whatever way we can. Now there's the 5 common fears that I hear women mention when it comes to taking care of their bodies, moving towards peace with food, moving towards healthy habits, all relate to 5 different areas: discipline, time, money, success, and change. Again, discipline, time, money, success, and change. There's probably many more, and there's probably better words to use for it. This is just kind of the categories that I'm coming up with right here. And the first is discipline, and the question that they're asking is, will I follow through? Will I actually be able to follow through on watching a training, or attending a coaching call, or creating a plan for myself and actually consistently exercising, actually buying healthy groceries and actually preparing them? Will I be able to follow through? And often why this question pops into our head is because maybe of previous experiences where we have not followed through, right? And that has, to us in the mind, it proves to us in our mind that we can't do it, that we can't follow through. Versus that's what we call a fixed mindset, meaning that things can't change. A growth mindset, or abundance mindset that believes that change is possible, believes that, okay, well, that may have happened, I acknowledge that, but that does not mean that the next day or this situation or this time it can't be different. So even though I may not have followed through before, I am someone actually who has discipline. I can see that by the way that I care for my kids. I can see that by the way that I actually succeed at my job. I can see by the way I organize that party, that I'm actually someone who has structure and discipline in my life. And when you call upon experiences from other areas of your life, it brings into the fold, and you start to say, okay, well, maybe if I could do that here, I can do that in this area as well. And maybe you feel like you're not a disciplined person at all, but that doesn't still mean that you can't change that. And so the question of, will I follow through? You have to just not ignore your past experiences, but really just ask yourself, forgive yourself for the past maybe, and say, this is what once happened, but this doesn't mean that that always has to be my case. Again, anyone that has ever accomplished something in life, and you hear tons of stories and there's I think there's a podcast / YouTube called Goalcast or something like that. And it's an inspirational thing that just talks a lot about people who went through impossible situations. And the common thing through all of them is that they believe that things could change, and they believe that they could change, not just circumstances, but they could change. So will I follow through? Will I have the discipline? And again, I think one thing that you can do to break, kind of like overcome or like push through this fear and courageously is to call upon other instances in your life where you did have discipline, where you did follow through. My goodness, if you finish school or high school, if you finish college, if you finish your master's, if you finish a certification program, that just tells you you do have the discipline. And so we want to like look at all of those other areas as proof to ourselves. But also, in my work, in my coaching programs, whether they're one-on-one or group, I hear this as a common thing. Actually, women, before they work with me, they ask themselves, they ask me, they ask all this sort of stuff. And I say, you know what, like I say, I would give them the advice I just gave you, but I would also say, I've purposely built in aspects of my programs to help you follow through, to make it easier for you to follow through. So in my Food Freedom Bootcamp, for example, my group program, there are weekly group coaching calls, there are weekly trainings, but there's also, you might be like, I could still not attend those, and you're right, but there's community. And it's a small group, so we'll know when we'll miss you when you're not there or you're not interacting. There's an opportunity for you to connect with other women, have accountability, and there is just built-in things in every program I do, whether it's community, whether it's a coach, whether even one-on-one support, whether it's using an e-support tool where I can check in on you and you can share that we will make sure you follow through. And there's also a space where if maybe you didn't follow through for a season, we're going to figure out why. How can we adjust it so it's easier for you to follow through, so it's more simple? And so if you're wondering, will I follow through? Will I have the discipline to do any program or plan that I want to do? I think one, you need to call upon your past experiences where you have shown yourself you do have discipline, even if it's not in your health. But two, if you want to work with me, whether it's through my Food Freedom Bootcamp, whether it's one-on-one, I have set up things purposely in each of those areas and each of those programs to make sure you will follow through. Okay, not with like knocking on your head if you don't, but with a space for you to reflect, celebrate, adjust. Okay, how did this week go? Why wasn't it as easy? Let's talk about it so next week can be better. And that's why even in my Facebook group, sometimes the free Facebook group and sometimes on Instagram, I'll do a Friday reflections asking 3 questions. What went well and why? What didn't go so well and why? And what can make next week better? That's celebrating, that's reflecting, and that's adjusting for the future. Okay, so you get way more at a higher level of support like that in my programs, but it's honestly something you can do on your own. But I think sometimes having a set community to support you and a coach helps you know you're just not alone. Because trust me, this will I follow through or discipline is a question so many of us have asked. If not in this area, other areas of our life, okay? And so if that is your fear, I really want you to figure out where in my life have I actually followed through and I have had the discipline, and how can I bring that more into this area of my health? And then if you want support through with me in many of my programs, particularly my boot camp coming up, I built all that in, okay? Okay, the next question is, will I have the time? The next question, the next fear. And let's just be honest, we're not getting any more hours in our day. We all have 24 hours. And yet we all actually have, so in the first question, maybe we have a fixed mindset. Maybe for this one, we have a scarcity mindset where we believe there's just never enough time for the things that we want to do. But the reality is there's more than enough time. We need an abundance mindset. There's more than enough time for the things we want to do. We just need to shift how we're using our time. So it's very helpful to do even like a time audit, like where am I spending my time, and calculate all of that up, right? And if I say, now this goes to like, if this is important to you, if it's very important for you to find freedom with your health and to really reach your goals in this season, you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice for that? Particularly with time, what are you willing to give up so that you can create space, so you can just reallocate your time? And so for you, for us, maybe it's less TV. I was talking with someone the other day who maybe didn't watch a whole lot of TV, but then the pandemic hit and you're just home a lot more. There's a lot more streaming services and they're set up to kind of just make you watch them very quickly. So Maybe instead of 2 shows, you watch 1 a day or every other day. And so it's not to say you can't watch TV. I think it's a great fun thing to do, but how else could you use that time? I have a 15-month-old who, when I'm not working, I'm taking care of her or taking care of my health. Like that's just like, so I have a full-time job-ish, like a lot of things going on. And I just was faced very early on in that thinking, all right, I can say I don't have the time to exercise, I don't have the energy, or I don't have the resources or the money or all these things, but this is very important to me. It is crucial. It's one of my non-negotiables, and it's one of my values and my priorities to physically move my body each day. So where am I going to make the time? And that may mean less social media. That may mean less scrolling when I'm just trying to be like, oh, it's the end of the day, you're watching a show, I'm just gonna no, I'm gonna use that time to move, do a little workout here while she's over there, right? So what do you need to sacrifice in your schedule to actually incorporate more time for your health? And again, what you replace it with is up to you. Maybe it's exercise, maybe it's movement, maybe it's going through a program like mine where you're actually taking some time to go through the material and apply it, right? So what do you need to give up in your schedule so that you can have more space for the things that you say matters, not I. If you really want to find freedom with food, your body, and your health, if you want to reach your goals, it is you that needs to create time in your schedule. We all do, all right? So that may mean less TV. That may mean you need to listen to podcast, or even say my content. You can listen to it on the go, ask someone to watch kids for you so you can do an errand, or go get your workout shoes you've been wanting, or block out some time on the weekend for self-care. Self-care meaning whatever you need, but also I think going through a program or materials or anything that's going to grow and develop you is self-care, because it's really caring for your whole self, and it's going to lay some great foundations for success. All right. And in my program there, each week the coaching sessions for the boot camp can range 60 to 75 minutes, depending on the group right at the time and how much they want to share. Maybe the trainings for 20 to 30 minutes each week. It's 6 weeks. It's a boot camp. So it's going to be like very intentional for 6 weeks, but it's a short frame for that. You don't have to do this all the time, but I promise you can find 90 minutes in throughout your week. You just block out the time for the coaching call. For 6 weeks, I'm committed to coaching call for an hour. And then you block out some other time, whether it's on the weekend, whether it's before the coaching call, whatever, for the material. And guys, guess what? I am going through a 6-month group coaching program myself for business. I am going through 8-month Bible study for women. I am going through a 3-month kind of faith in business program. I run my business. I have a kid. I'm married. I have a household. And you might be like, Brie, but that's because you run your own thing. No, even when I was working a full-time job, even when I was a public auditor working a lot of hours a day, I made time for things that mattered. So when I say all those programs, because learning and growth and development, particularly in my mind and how it relates to my callings in my life, is huge, and it's very important to me. And so I make time for it. And then, even when I work 12-hour days, many years ago, come on, like 5 years ago, I made time for cooking meals and exercise because it was important to me, right? So I don't want to sit here and be like, whatever. I just really want to encourage you that, like, listen, if you say this matters to you, you need to make the time. And that might mean you have to sacrifice, okay? So will I follow through? Will I have the discipline? And then you just really have to actually look at your past and say, okay, where in other areas of my life have I been disciplined, and call that into this area of your health, right? But then knowing too, like if you work with me, regardless if it's this Food Freedom Bootcamp or one-on-one, I build in aspects of follow through and accountability for you. Will I have the time? Even in my one-on-one programs, guess what? You're not gonna spend tons of times each week. I work with busy people. We're all busy, but we can reallocate our time for the things that matter and the things that we say we prioritize and value. So that might mean giving up some TV. That may mean having someone watch your kid. That may mean waking up a little early, whatever it may mean. The next question that I hear when women are trying to cause a shift in their life for their health, for the good, is, will I be able to pay for this? And not just from, well, yes, I hear this from my programs, but I think in anything, like if you want to like buy a bike to start exercising, or you want to join a gym, or you want to call upon a meal planning service because you're just really busy in the season and you don't really feel like cooking meals. It costs money. And listen, money is just an exchange of value at the end of the day, right? So when you're paying Amazon for whatever, you're saying, Amazon, I value this product and your service, so I'm going to pay you money. And at the end of the day, you're going to spend money regardless, or you're going to save it, whichever. And I just wonder if we need to not just reallocate our time, but reallocate our money. And that's the importance of budgeting and checking what you spend your money on, because you might start to see like, wow, I'm spending a lot of money on Starbucks, or I'm spending a lot of money on eating out. And how could I save money and maybe cut my grocery bill in half or my food bill in half by cooking at home, and then use that other half for a new workout plan, to join a new health program that's going to help you. Like, it's the same thing with time. It's like, how do we reallocate our money? Because we are going to spend money at the end of the day. So are there things that you need to delay? Like maybe there's a trip, and I know like you're like, Brand, I haven't gone anywhere in nearly 2 years. I'm not saying you need to delay, but like a trip that maybe you're like, you kind of want to do, but there's something else that's more important for your health right now. Or maybe you need to like do less things on that trip. Or maybe in general, are there things that, like, honestly, subscriptions that you're just not using, and that could add up to $100 a month, and you could be saving that by just watching it and cutting out? Or are there ways that you need to start saving? And I truly believe if we can save for car payments, trips, stuff for our kids, it's time we start saving for our health. Can I just say it again? If you can start saving for car payments, trips, stuff for kids, school, and my goodness, we even go into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt through school, I think we can start saving for ourselves and our health. Because at the end of the day, if you tell yourself that it is a value to you and it's a priority to you, what does your time and your money show it? And I'm not saying like you need to show me anything, and I'm not saying you owe me anything. I'm just saying, like, to yourself, are you allocating the time and money necessary to really care for your body and your health, to find freedom mentally in your mindset so that you can find freedom physically in your body? And it's almost like often we ask like, I can't afford this, or how can I afford this? But what about if we switch the question and said, how, like, I can't, like, instead of I can't afford this, I can't afford not to do this. I just think there are certain times in our life where we realize we've tried to do a lot of things on our own, or we've tried to do things with free programs, or tried to do things like when we have time and it's just not working. And then we have to ask ourselves, like, can I afford to not do this anymore? Can I afford to do this alone? And instead of asking like, oh my gosh, this is how much money I'm spending on groceries or on programs or on my health, how much money are you saving? How much mental real estate are you saving? So obviously the Food Freedom Bootcamp, I'm not going to tell you to buy a different set of groceries. Like, we're focusing on mindset, but then obviously habits, practically caring for our body as well. So that means 1 week maybe we are going to talk about nutrition in that week or whatever. But I think here, what the difference between like this 6-week program, maybe than my 6 month at the moment, is I feel like we're spending so much energy living in fear, living in shame, and living in guilt. And it's taking up too much mental real estate in our minds. And you just have to ask yourself, how would you feel if some of that mental real estate was freed up? What else could you think about? What else could you do? How would you feel? If you stopped worrying about what you ate all the time, and instead, yes, you were concerned and careful and intentional, but that means, when you go out to eat with friends and family, you can be present. You can enjoy that conversation with your loved one. You can laugh a little bit instead of worrying about, oh my gosh, should I just eat 500 or 1,000 calories on this one meal, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't watch your portions. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like, if you are worrying so much about food, your body, and your health in a way that is not helping you and serving you, you need to ask yourself, what do you need to do to change? And is that time? Is that money? Is that changing your habits and discipline? Because you cannot afford to keep thinking. You can choose this. You could choose to live your rest of your life anxious over this, feeling trapped by this, or you could choose that you want freedom. It just may require you to invest your time, invest your money, invest your resources, right? Because the reality is, at the end of the day, if we're going to spend our money somewhere, and with our health in particular, we're going to spend it at some point in our life. You could either spend it to be proactive and really kind of help your mind and your body and your soul prepare and just be healthy and well, or later on in your life, when many of us actually develop chronic health conditions. And you can still develop a chronic health condition even if you really take care of yourself from a young age. I'm not saying, but there are correlations, okay? So you just got to ask yourself, like, what am I willing to sacrifice in regards to time and spending and money to either save or to invest practically now in the present or in the future for my health and my food freedom? Because if you truly want peace with your body, peace with food, and to develop a healthy lifestyle and healthy habits that takes you to a place of freedom and peace and joy and vibrancy and vitality, it will take sacrifice. But you don't have to be afraid of it, right? And I think that leads into this fear. So, the first question of, will I follow through? Will I have the time? Will I be able to pay for this? Kind of all leads into, like, will it work? Will it be successful? And I just think in cases in the past where we weren't successful, or we feel like we weren't, it's hard to venture down to get our expectations and our hopes up again, right? It's hard to feel like I'm going to try to do this again. And I'm going to be trying to be willing to do this, but I'm just nervous it won't change. And the reality is that there is no perfect plan. There's no perfect program. It may not work completely as you want, but if you took 1, 2, 3 steps forward, if you realize something that you have never realized before and got support and tools like you never did before because you chose to invest in your health through whatever program or thing or time, whatever that is, it's worth it. And it did work. I think as women, we have such high standards for ourselves, which is good, but we have unrealistic standards, unrealistic notions of what success actually is. And it is holding us back, and it's actually causing us to create tons of self-sabotage in our life. And that is why in my 6-week boot camp, in my 6-month program, I've designed everything to help you move toward your version of success in a realistic way. Help you create life-giving, aligned, realistic goals. All right. And so in my Food Freedom Bootcamp that is open for registration now, I'll show up for you if you show up for yourself. And I promise you, if you show up for yourself, I show up for you, you'll have a version of success that you did not have before. You will start to feel peace with food. You will start to understand what's causing your broken relationship with food, your body, and yourself. And you will take practical steps to move forward. And this bootcamp is literally one of the most affordable, high value, high touch programs out there around this. Hardly ever do you get like a course plus weekly coaching and a Facebook group in between to support you. And the reason why I'm offering it this day, because I am just tired. I am tired of women being in bondage. I'm tired of women just not being free. I know what it's like. I've been there. And I was there for many years. It was a dark place. But when I'm teaching you the tools and the mindset shifts that I found that really helped me and has helped women the last 5.5 years of me coaching, I just knew, I was like, my gosh, I have to help. I have to just share. And I need to get women who are ready. And that's why it's like, yes, I do a lot of free things, but that's why I also ask women to pay money. Because one, you're going to take a lot more of my time, and I'm happy to do that. But I also have a family I need to take care of. But also because when you invest your time and money into something, you're not just saying to me, Brianna, your program's worth it. You're saying to yourself that I am worth it. And that matters more to me. And so that is why I've been talking about this for the last whole month. That is why I've done so much around it, way more stuff than I would normally do for a program and launching and all that. That's why I'm making sure I include coaching, community, and content to help you succeed, because I truly believe in this 6-week container, women are going to experience freedom. And if fear is false evidence appearing real, or worrying about something that didn't happen, then I believe freedom is walking in to a state of peace and joy and life in an area of our lives that we have not experienced that joy, peace, or life like before. And many of you, maybe listening or watching, have not experienced food, body, health freedom. You have not experienced what it's like to eat food and feel good about it. Eat food and not worry about how much calories or how much fat grams or how much protein grams. You don't. To eat a donut and feel like, you know what, it was worth it. Or eat a piece of celery instead of the donut and say that was worth it too. Or learn to dress your body or care for your body or see your body as this beautiful vessel that only you live in and there's only one like. Or to see yourself as this beautiful mosaic piece of that has multiple facets to you, and there's a lot to your life and your personality and your interests that anyone would be lucky to get to know you. And if you've never experienced that, if you've never experienced what it's like to step on the scale and being like, oh, that's interesting, or oh, okay, that's cool, or not even step on the scale at all, or when you hear about all these new diets out there, to be like, oh, that's cool, I'm curious, maybe I'll try that, but not feel like you're missing out or not feel like that's the solution. And you have to quickly go do the diet. Maybe you've never experienced, like, my goodness, like the joy of moving your body, the joy of like walking and lifting weights and stretching. And maybe you've never experienced what it's like to be emotionally intelligent and know what's going on in your mind and heart and be able to create healthy solutions to that, to process that. And if you've never experienced any of that, then you are in for a beautiful gift in the Food Freedom Bootcamp, because that is what I want you to experience, all of that and more in this beautiful container. And as it's fall, right? Apparently the first day of fall was yesterday. And so it's going to be October to like mid-November. It's like right before like the holidays really hit. And what would it be like if you set a solid foundation for your relationship with food, your health, your body, and yourself, so that when Thanksgiving rolls around, when Christmas rolls around, when New Year's rolls around, you ain't worried, because you feel good, you feel confident, you feel healthy, and you can eat those foods and you can have your habits change for a bit and not feel anxious about it. I think that sounds like a cool thing to me, right? And so that all leads me to like, yeah, will I follow through? Will I have the time? Will it work? So, discipline, time, money, success, will I have the money? And this all leads me to, will it be uncomfortable? And this has to do with change. Like, what will I have to change? Will it be like, well, I should say, what will I have to change? Well, yes. Will it be uncomfortable? Yes. Because change is uncomfortable, because you're shifting from one way you've thought and done life to a new way. And so many of us want to change, but we're scared of change because we actually find comfort in that brokenness, or we find comfort in that, in that ability to just do as we always done, be worried about food. We don't know what we like to not be worried about food or exercise or our body, right? And so I just want to encourage you that if that is your fear, if you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous to change, because even though this is not ideal, this has worked, or I feel safe and I feel like it's something I can control, like, change is scary. It is. But you will not be alone in that change if you choose to invest in a program or something that can support you along the way. Some of us can do this change and totally be fine. But some of us really do need support. And that is why I've created a 6-week container that can have coaching, content, community, and support. And you will succeed. You will be held. You would be held together, and you will not be alone if you choose to sign up and show up. Sign up and show up. And so that's your action point. My gosh, I do think, like, regardless of if you're listening or not, I do think there are things that you could practically do here on your own that you just need to shift. But if you are listening to this around the time when I'm doing this boot camp, or even if you're not, I mean, you could join the wait list for the next round, but I won't be running this program again until spring, probably next year. A lot of other things happening in the fall. So if this is something that you are interested in and you want support in really working through these 5 fears, will I follow through? Will I have the time? Will I be able to afford this? Will it work? Will it be uncomfortable? Will I have to change? Then I would love to just talk with you and actually talk with you about those fears and those hesitations. And that's the beautiful thing about hopping on a free complimentary call, is that even though, look, it's just a space for you to get clear on what is your next step. And even, we might get to the end of the call and you'd be like, these fears, I want to hold on to them a little bit more. And then I could say, okay, but just know what you're sacrificing when you want to hold on to those fears. Just know that it's going to take you longer to move towards your version of freedom. All right. Or you may decide I might want to do something else. I'm like, as long as you're going to take intentional action, it's win. All right. So early bird for my Food Freedom Bootcamp actually ends tomorrow, which means you can save $100 and get a 30-minute one-on-one session with me during the program. And so that's why I want you to at least reach out to me and book a clarity call so you can qualify for that early bird. But I really want you to know that you're not alone. It's normal to have fears, but we cannot let our fears, no matter what they are, whether it's the fear of discipline, time, money, success, or change, hold us back from moving forward. Because if we let our fears hold us back, it just delays our freedom even more. Okay. And so I would love to hear from you, if you're listening or watching, what your major takeaway was. What fear that you feel like you really wrestle with? Is it fear of time, of money, of success, of discipline, or of change? And what can you practically do to kind of work through that fear and be courageous and take brave action? And for some of you, it may be booking that clarity call with me, just to get clear and just to see if this bootcamp really is for you. There's only 8 spots total. And I really want to create a small space where there can be very high levels of connection and intimacy with one another, really supporting one another. So if you are interested, please message me ASAP or book that clarity call for sometime this upcoming week. And even if you're listening to this or watching this in the bootcamp's past, still book a call. I mean, I do have, I typically try to leave some one-on-one spots, whether it's a one-time session or a 6-month session program open for people who are ready. So grateful for you all. Thank you for enduring the multiple noises here and everything. And obviously this went a little bit longer than I wanted, but I really feel like this discussion was something I wanted to give space to and really help you think through, what are your fears? It may be the 4 or 5 I've mentioned, maybe it's something else. And what do you need to do to provide to do brave action and courage and be courageous? Okay. So grateful for you all. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope to talk to many of you soon to see if this Food Freedom Bootcamp is for you.